Hey folks, howdy race fans. Welcome to my little show about racing I like to call In the Pits with me, StockCar Scott. And as always, In the Pits comes to you here on YouTube on Wednesdays. If I can get through this show without making another mistake and having to start all over again. And it comes on Wednesdays when I can get it on Wednesdays when I feel like it, because you know, I have no sponsor to try to tell me what to do. That, race fans, is my wife's job. Racing started early on Friday with Formula One practice at Singapore. Young Russian driver Danny Kvyat was fastest, which was great for the Red Bull team, which is going through a messy divorce from its engine supplier, Renault. My favorite, Lewis Hamilton, was only fourth fastest in a race where he won last year. And that was as good as it was going to get for him last weekend. But the big news for Americans was that Californian Alexander Rossi, who's been doing real well, winning in the F2 feeder series, made laps during practice towards his F1 debut. Also on Friday was practice for all three top touring divisions of NASCAR at Chicagoland Speedway. There were no major mishaps in practice, but a few drivers had minor scrapes with the wall. During Camping World Truck Series qualifying, the weather moved in, however, and washed out the remainder of qualifying for the trucks, as well as Sprint Cup qualifying for them that followed. And also the Camping World Truck race that was scheduled for that evening. Nope, the Air Titans could not battle the rain enough to get the track dry for any racing Friday evening, so that was rescheduled for the next morning on the Phantom Sports 2 channel that hardly anyone can get. So I couldn't sleep early Saturday morning, so I was up for F1 qualifying at Singapore, and surprise, surprise, Hamilton was not on the pole. He was way back in fifth, and his teammate was back there with him in sixth. Sebastian Vettel was on the pole in a Ferrari, and surprise was the word he used to describe how he felt being there. On Vettel's outside there in qualifying was his old teammate Daniel Ricciardo in a Red Bull car, despite the engine problems and politics that they're having right now. And Vettel's current teammate Kimi Räikkönen was behind Vettel with the other Red Bull car of young Danny Kvyat to the outside of the flying fin. This put the two Mercedes Silver Arrows in row 3, unfamiliar territory for Hamilton in 5th and Rosberg in 6th. In his debut, American Alexander Rossi qualified 20th, last on the grid. But don't worry folks, that's where Marussia cars have been qualifying for a long time. Hopefully things will get better for him. Then after that, it was time for the Camping World Truck Series race on that Phantom Sports 2 channel. And it was a shame I could not watch it because I was already up. You know, gee whiz, folks, I really miss Speed Channel. But I did finally see the truck race on Fox Sports 1 on Monday during a surprise replay on Monday morning at about 6 a.m. Good thing that I was up to take my wife into work, or I would have missed it altogether. Unfortunately, just as I found the replay and turned it on, they were already on like about lap 4 or 5, and local Auburn driver Tyler Tanner was already parking his number 36 Silverado after having started a decent 24th. Seeing Kyle Larson win in a one-off that he was running for Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s motorsport team there, in a 00 Silverado would have been nice. Would have been nice to see him win, but he ran out of gas right there at the end. And, you know, it turned out to be a lot better seeing young John Hunter Nemechek win in his father Joe's number 8 Silverado for his first major NASCAR victory. It is just a crying shame, though, it took 2 days for a replay to finally appear. Phenom Eric Jones finished 6th and maintains first in points in his number 4 KBM Tundra, which he drives for the Toad. Tyler Reddick moves up to 2nd in points with his 2nd place finish for Brad Keselowski Motorsports, and Matt Crafton finished 14th, which drops him to 3rd in points with 7 races left in the season. The next race will be on Saturday morning here, even though it's like 1 o'clock or so in Loudon, New Hampshire, as a support race for the Sprint Cup race there on Sunday. Okay, after not watching the Camping World Truck Series race Saturday morning, I was able to watch some Sprint Cup practice on CNBC, as well as Xfinity qualifying and the other Cup practice session on NBCSN. With the Toad taking the pole there in the end of qualifying, I knew I wouldn't regret at all missing the live broadcast of the Xfinity race, and you know, it turned out I was right. From what I saw on Fans Choice TV there on my computer before NASCAR turned it off, was the number 90 of one of my favorites there, Molly Hellman, setting a career best 2nd fastest qualifying time for super late models. And I knew I would regret not going to see Molly and my other favorite Evergreen Speedway racers on their last evening of racing for the season. So, I set the TV recording device and left for the track. I got there for opening ceremonies because I just skipped over the heat races because there were 8 of them for the different divisions. When they did get to racing, first up was the Hornet Hooligan race, because they had such a big field. They had a hooligan race in which 4 cars transferred to the main. Next up was the first of the 9 main races for the evening, a 25-lap contest for the Northwest Pro 4 Truck Series, a series I have grown quite fond of over the past few seasons because they are basically 4-bangers like mini stocks, but they are small trucks that might be a little more relatable to the young folks that drive them out on the street these days. You know, more so than the 30-year-old Mustangs and Rabbits that make up the mini stock class. So, the 25-lap series finale for the Pro 4 trucks and the championship was won by one and the same, number 27, Doug Wilkinson, who's had a wonderful year. Of course, winning the championship. Congratulations, Doug. Next up were the 30-year-old Mustangs and Rabbits, better known as the Foster Press Mini Stocks. Trenton Moriarty was already the champion before the race even started. So congratulations, Trenton, on your championship there. But it was still a heated contest, and I was happy to see my favorite, Scott Burby, in his 41 Mustang, win the last race of the season. Mini stocks were followed by the Hornets in a spirited 25-lap main and one of the figure 8 classes in their main. Then came the legends with many familiar names from the racing that I watched down at South Sound Speedway. The usual suspects of Tristan Hayter, Dwayne Swanson and Will Rittenauer ran up front most of the 40-lap contest that ran caution-free, with Dwayne Swanson winning. They have another race next weekend at South Sound Speedway to wind down their season. After the Legends, there were 2 more figure 8 races, one that took up way too much time with way too much wrecking. Just too much. And folks that follow me on Facebook know that, you know, I don't go to racing to see wrecking, I go to see racing. So, anyway, after those 2 figure 8 races, then trophies were handed out, and there were some happy-looking people in the crowd there. Next to last for the evening was the street stock class 30-lap main that probably had the best side-by-side racing of the night. And that racing went on between, or should I say amongst, Roger Drake, Chad Fitzpatrick, and Carl Davidson. Roger Drake was able to win the event and the championship again for this year. So congratulations to Roger Drake. The last race on the card for the finale night was, of course, the 75-lap super late model feature. The NASCAR Washington State Late Model Championship was settled as the race started, because that was about all that defending champ Mike Holden needed to do in his borrowed number 32 Hillbilly Hotties Chevrolet, with special thanks to Jeremiah Johnson. You know, I wish that the race had gotten off to a better start. I can't help but think that the start had a definite bearing on the eventual outcome, though, as I used to say, you can't win on the first lap, but you sure can lose a race on the first lap. And a former track champion proved that old racing adage wrong, not just once Saturday night, but twice in that final race of 2015. So after the first attempt at a start, Molly Helmuth was able to move to up to the pole, vacated by Andy Soule, who had been sent to the back alone for bringing out the first caution, which happened before the first lap even finished. And the way I saw it, and I'm finding others on Facebook agree, that Andy should have had company back in the rear there. After all, he was not the sole driver entering turn 2, as he probably should have been if the car on the outside had not jumped the start. Well, okay, Andy was the sole driver in turn 2, but he was not alone, and neither should have been alone at the back of the pack. But during the ensuing attempt at a restart for the, a start for the 75-lap feature, the driver again on the outside line jumped out around Molly Helmuth to lead that lap, and every lap for the win. Other cars came and went, but no one ever passed the leader. Andy Soule was able to fight his way back up for a top 5 finish, while crowd favorite Molly Helmuth was able to hang on during the late stages of the race to get her first podium of the season with a 3rd place finish. The winner of the last late model Wreck Fest on Labor Day weekend there at Evergreen Speedway, Donnie Wannett in his number 89 finished 2nd for the evening. But that was not enough for him to pass Mike Holden, who wins the championship this year again. Congratulations, Mike. Okay, after a long evening of racing, I popped in for a short visit in the pits, where I learned some really good stuff and caught up with race fans and friends. So, shout-outs this week go like this, and let me get a drink before I start. hey to Mike, Molly, Jana, Tracy, Steve, Tony, Mike, Jeff, Larry, Kenny, Jordan, Kelly, Sam, Brian, Mike, Tim, April, Crusher, Junior, Andy, Will, Kevin, James, Cecil, and Ralph. It was great to see all of you, and it was a fun night of racing. And a special thank you to all the folks out there at Evergreen Speedway that made it happen. When I got home from Evergreen, I checked to make sure that I had captured the end of the Xfinity race. And when I saw that I had, I went on to bed because I knew the outcome. I knew the Toad had won over a Joe Gibbs racing teammate, Matt Kenseth, in his number 47 Monster Camry. That did not pass post-race inspection there for the Toad. No. We found out today NASCAR will allow the Toad to keep the win, but his crew chief is on probation until the end of the year and is about $12,500 lighter in the pocket. And that's all for, I think, a shock that broke that caused him to not finish at the right height. And Joe Gibbs Racing was docked 10 owner points. Of course, the Toad wasn't docked any points because as a Cup driver in the Xfinity Series, he does not get points. Okay, the best finishing of the Xfinity regular drivers was my favorite Alabama hot shoe, Darrell Wallace Jr. Yeah, Bubba finished third in his Roush Mustang behind the two Gibbs Cup Chase drivers. Fellow Roush driver Chris Buescher finished seventh, which helped him to maintain his lead in the driver points, while Ty Dillon's fifth place finish moved him past Chase Elliott again to second in points after Elliott's 14th place finish. Next up for the Xfinity Series is a 300-mile contest at Kentucky Speedway in a standalone NASCAR race. Well, it's standalone for NASCAR. Its companion race is an ARCA 150-mile event on Friday night on Fox Sports 1. Oh, all right, Fox Sports 1. That means I get to watch it live. All right, I'll get to see my favorite Alabama ARCA driver, Grant Enfinger, who won the last ARCA race there at Salem Speedway, and hopefully he can continue his winning ways. All right, Sunday started early, as it does for all of us Formula One fans here in the left side of the planet. And the day did not start well for my favorite, Lewis Hamilton, starting way back in the third row. That's way back for him, next to his teammate, what's his name? Of course, Vettel, four-time champion, world champion, new Ferrari driver, Sebastian Vettel, was on the pole in his ride from the Scuderia. Next to Vettel was his old teammate from last year at Red Bull, Daniel Ricciardo. And behind Vettel was his current teammate, former Ferrari champion, the Flying Finn, Kimi Räikkönen. And despite what the remainder of the competitors had to offer, that is exactly how the podium looked at the end of the Grand Prix of Singapore. Lewis Hamilton had problems and retired, so his teammate Nico Rosberg was able to gain on Hamilton in the driver points. And of course, the winner, Sebastian Vettel, gained the most points on Hamilton, who still leads by well over a Grand Prix, meaning he could still have another retirement and still lead. And, you know, for the first time in a bunch of years, everybody in America was happy because F2 winning driver, Californian, Alexander Rossi, made his F1 debut in a Marussia. So he ran around in the back, but he didn't hit anything, and he finished the race. And that's good, folks. And even with all the retirements, Rossi was not able to score any points. But Rossi will have 4 more starts in the last 6 races of the season, including the United States Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas next month. All right. And in the file under weird stuff category, weird stuff that can happen at a Formula One race, a pedestrian, and you folks know how I feel about pedestrians, a pedestrian wandered out onto the track there at Singapore and brought out a safety car that, of course, altered the outcome of the Grand Prix. Well, for the drivers other than Vettel, because Sebastian had the field covered. His next chance to eat into Hamilton's lead comes this Saturday night at about 11 p.m. here. One of the few times that Formula One comes on at a decent viewing hour. And what will I be doing? I will be at South Sound Speedway. Well, at least for part of it. When I get home, I will watch the rest of the Grand Prix of Japan there at Suzuka. Hopefully, Mercedes can shake off this setback and perform up to the standards set over the last couple of seasons. And with a second win by Sebastian Vettel, Ferrari seems to be resurgent, so watch out for them. So we will have to just see how it all plays out in the big soap opera drama that is Formula One. Just 6 more races, folks. Woo! And of course, next up on Sunday was football. Ugh, no, I'm just kidding, folks. Whoa. No, I'm just kidding. What was on was what was important. The first race of the 10-race chase for the Sprint Cup was all that was on my televisions on Sunday. Kevin Happy Harvick started on the pole alongside of the Joker Logano because of the fast practice times that they had set on Friday before the rains came in and washed away qualifying. Little Denny Hamlin spun on the first lap, but was able to turn that around to win the first race of the chase despite his torn ACL. Just past halfway, the Joker punted old 6 times so hard during a restart that Johnson had to use up the inside of Happy Harvick's number 4 Jimmy John Chevrolet just to save his own number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet. Unfortunately, that move led to a cut tire and a devastating crash for Harvick, leaving him very unhappy with Jimmy Johnson. In the ensuing restart, the Toad restarted himself into second place behind the old man, Jeff Gordon, who has been playing the restart game since the Toad was a mere tadpole. But NASCAR still had to make a call of no call because of all of the ongoing restart controversies. A late restart with cars on old tires and some cars on new tires led to little Denny Hamlin, who had spun on lap 1, to grabbing the lead and riding it all the way to the end of the race on his bad knee. Of course, this win advances Hamlin to the next round of the chase, no matter how he does in the next 2 races. So, he and his 3 Joe Gibbs teammates occupy the top 4 slots in the chase, while my favorites, Dale Jr., slots in at 10th in the chase, and Harvick who displayed his displeasure with Johnson after the race, was at the bottom in 16th until today, after NASCAR lowered the boom on Michael Waltrip Racing for a pre-race inspection infraction there at Chicagoland. Now Clint Boyer occupies the last place in the chase, but Harvick still has his work cut out for him. Next week, the chase continues at Loudon, where the Toad won a couple of months ago after returning from his extended hiatus. The Camping World Truck Series will also be at Loudon in the 500th race for the Tailgaters. So, Saturday, they'll have that race early at Loudon before the Xfinity race that happens in the evening at Kentucky Speedway. So there will be plenty of racing to watch on the old boob tube this weekend, with an ARCA race on Friday, 3 different NASCAR events, and also a F1 Grand Prix. But, you know, I'll have to record the Grand Prix because Saturday, like I said, is also the racing finale night at South Sound Speedway. And the weather really looks good, albeit might be a little bit chilly, for 6 divisions running that night. Yep, they got Bumblebees, Mini Stocks, Legends, Hobby Stocks, Vintage Modifieds, and the super late models with a 100-lap feature to make up one that they missed earlier in the year because of rain, to cap off the season. Not to mention, with it being cold, I'll have to have me some of them hot chili cheese fries, and also some of that really good hot chocolate that they have there at South Sound. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that is where I will be Saturday, all bundled up and watching racing, because, folks, that's what I do. And this is the last chance for me to do what I do at my favorite little Washington track this year. So, if you want to see some good racing, that's the place to be this week, and I hope to see you there. And remember, as always, take a friend, turn someone else on to racing. That's what I'm trying to do here with my little show about racing that I like to call In the Pits with me, Stock Car Scott. And I hope you tune in next week. Same Stock Car time, same Stock Car channel. And even though he's not part of the sport of stock car racing, I would be remiss if I did not mention the passing of an American legend, Yogi Berra, who at one time came up with one of my favorite quotes of all time that goes something like this: "The future ain't what it used to be, folks." And with that, thank you for watching. Tune in next week. Remember, the future ain't what it used to be, folks. See you next week. Thanks for watching.